morning. This is Buck Carson and Sean McGarry from Carson Classic Motors.
How you doing?
We'd like to go ahead and start out our web series this morning. We hope to, over the next few months, create a web series with a weekly video post where we take at least one motorcycle from the collection and talk about the specifications, how we got it, the history of the brand, and if possible, show you it running and riding. So this morning we're starting our web series in a new edition for the Carson Classic Motors facility. As you can see, we're still under construction here, so pardon the mess. So this morning what we have here is the 1937 WM-20 BSA. The WM-20 is the British military model from World War II. Alongside the American Harley WLA and other military motorcycles, the British chose the Royal Enfield and the BSA M20 as their vehicle of choice for the military during World War II. This motorcycle is in original condition. Original paint, original tires, original brakes, original electric system, original carburetor. This motorcycle has not been touched in over 35 years. We acquired this BSA M20 about 3 years ago at auction. It's one of those things where you walk up to it and you fall in love, and I have to say I fell in love with this. After bringing it back to the shop in order to get this machine running again, because it had been sitting for decades, we had to remove the fuel tank and take it and completely strip the inside. There was rust and there was actually varnish from the old gasoline that turned it into varnish. We also had to clean out the oil tank and clean out the oil lines. After that, it was checking the magneto for spark, examining the spark plug and cleaning the spark plug, cleaning out the carburetor, and rebuilding it, and then she fired right up. So as you can see here, this motorcycle features the girder front end, characteristic of the 1930s. The 1930s featured the girder front end before switching over to the hydraulic front end. It's actually a pretty comfortable ride regardless of what it looks like. For a 1930s motorcycle, it's basically a Cadillac.
Us Americans aren't too familiar with British motorcycles. One of the most interesting features, to me at least, is this thing they call a pedestrian slicer. In Britain, almost all the bikes have them, but they're to display the registration.
The paint on this motorcycle is actually painted with a brush. If you zoom in, you can actually see the individual brush strokes on the tank. Another very cool thing about this paint is the chemically reactive paint on the headlight and front fender. After doing some research on the BSA M20, I learned that the paint on the headlight and the front fender is chemically reactive. So during the war, if soldiers were riding this and the enemy started shooting chemical gases at them, the paint would actually change colors to warn them, obviously, that there was, a danger of going to gas. However, that probably would not help them because they'd be dead before they put their gas mask on.
This M20 has 950 of the original miles on it. After a little bit of research through the serial number and the frame number, we figured out that because of these saddlebags, this was a dispatch vehicle.
So this motorcycle features a single down tube frame which cradles a 500cc side valve single cylinder motor, otherwise known as a thumper. This motor is a very original condition and it's a very strong runner. It has a Champion original plug in it, which still creates a very hot spark. It has an Amel monoblock carburetor with original gas leaking out of the side of it. Don't worry, we have changed the gas since. So this motorcycle also features a 4-speed foot change gearbox. And this gearbox has actually a gear indicator on it, which is a bit unusual for a motorcycle of the 30s. Electrics on the M20 are provided by the original X-side battery. Now the X-side battery on this motorcycle has not been charged in decades, so it obviously is not going to hold a charge. Luckily, there is a Lucas magneto on here which provides a sufficient charge to give the motor spark and provide dim light in the headlight and tail light. The entire electrical system is Lucas, which is normal for the 1930s. Lucas had the monopoly on British motorcycle electrics. One of the most interesting things that we found on this motorcycle after we purchased it is the actual original air pump. And this air pump does not work as it has holes in it, as you can see. But in the field, the soldier would, if he had a flat tire, he would take the pump out, plug the leak, and fill the tire back up. The instrumentation on this motorcycle is it looks very complex, but it's actually very easy. Starting on the left side, you have your clutch lever because it is a foot shift. you have a decompression release. This is used when taking compression out of the motor and starting and stopping the motorcycle. You have an air valve over here to control your air mixture. This is your dipper switch for the headlight. You can change between bright and low settings on the headlight. You have a horn button here. And on this side you have your choke for the carburetor. These are actually original grips on this. This side is a cloth grip with brass tips on it, and this side is a plastic grip. And you have your front brake lever over here. In addition to the handlebar controls, you can see that it features a Smith's chronometric speedometer with 950 original miles, as stated earlier, as well as an amp meter switch. And as you can see, the amp meter switch is not working. It's in original condition and they are very hard to find. You also have your headlight switch to turn on and off your headlight. So now I'd like to go ahead and start up this M20 for you, and hopefully, if all goes well, ride it off in the distance. So to start these 1930s British motorcycles, the process is pretty simple. You turn on the fuel at your fuel taps. You prime your carburetor with a few taps of the flow pole. And then after that, what you want to do is pull in your compression release on the left-hand side and kick it through. Clean out the cylinders. After that, with any luck, it should start right up. Like I said, with any luck, it should start up. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the 1937 BSA WM-20 in action. Join us next week as we plot another piece from the Carson Classic Motors collection. Until then, ride safe.
So you just filmed your first video. How do you feel about that?
I'm going to Disney World!
So am I!